more and renewable energies, and that we probably will end up leaving the coal in the ground.
Well, I'm Representative Timothy Horgan. I represent Durham, and I was actually formerly an employee of Krell. I guess I could ask a strategic question, but I guess a simple technical question, which maybe you can clarify, because maybe I know obviously a lot of not the people in this room, but a lot of people outside this room often misunderstand this either deliberately or not. You mentioned briefly that global warming causes more snowfall, which is true, but that is often used by global warming deniers. Just about every time there's a major snowfall, they say, oh, global warming is disproven. If you like to look at the blogosphere of the Usenet, you always see posts that Al Gore is committing suicide every time there's a snowstorm because his theory's been disproven. So maybe, and I guess clarify more that that's actually global warming does cause more events like the major snowfalls and even the ice storm that we had in December.
Well, global warming causes the atmosphere to hold more water vapor. As the atmosphere gets warmer, it holds more water vapor, just as in the summer it's much moister than in the winter. So if you're at a place where it's cold enough to have freezing temperatures, then of course you can get more snowfall if the atmosphere has more water vapor. It also means that the line at which you shift from rain to snow is moving poleward, and we observe, in fact, that climate zones are shifting, and plants and animals are responding to that. It fluctuates from year to year because the year-to-year fluctuations are larger than the rate at which it's moving, but temperature lines are moving about 30 miles per decade poleward.
Okay, yes.
At the end of December in 2008, you and your wife sent a letter to the Obamas through the then-to-be science advisor recommending national policy, and I would like to know 3 quick answers about that letter. Is it available on the web? Is that still the national policy that you recommend? And does there seem to be any action on your recommendations by the new administration?
Yeah, well, yeah, the letter is on this website where the address is here. Yes, those are the actions that I recommend, and it's still up in the air. The most important thing, and I didn't have time in the talk here to get into the question of how you get these policies, but I think a carbon price and 100% dividend is what we need in order to move beyond fossil fuels. For example, if we put a tax equivalent to $1 a gallon, and you put it on coal, oil, and gas at the mine or at the first point of sale, that would generate $670 billion. And I say you should give all of that money back to the public on a per capita basis, which would be $3,000 per adult or $9,000 per family with 2 or more children. And that way, people who do better than average in reducing their carbon emissions would actually make more money in the dividend than they would pay on the increased price of the fuels. And that's the only way that you're going to pressure the system to make the fundamental changes that are needed to move off of fossil fuels. And that's the way that you encourage renewable energies and energy efficiency, rather than trying to demand that utilities use 20% renewables or something. It's much better most efficient economically to put a price on the carbon emissions. And I'm afraid that this is a tough thing for a politician to do, because it sounds like a tax. And it is a tax, but if the money doesn't go to Washington, instead it goes back. You just deposit it monthly in people's bank accounts or their debit card, and it if we don't do something like that, I don't think we're going to be able to move off of the fossil fuels fast enough.
Take two more questions.
Thank you, Dr. Hansen. My name is John David. I'm from Amherst, New Hampshire. I recently read a book by an author, Gwyneth Cravens, called Power to Save the World. And in that book, she makes a rather strong, convincing case that we really need to look again at nuclear power as an energy, a clean energy alternative, given the zero carbon emissions. I wonder if you'd like to comment on that prospect. It seems that we don't hear, in all of the iteration of energy alternatives, wind, solar, hydro, and coal, and wood chips and so forth, we never hear nuclear, yet 20% of our power in New Hampshire comes from Seabrook.
Yeah, I think if we put a price on carbon emissions, energy efficiency and renewables should be at the top of our list. But I think the government should support the research, the rapid, urgent development of fourth-generation nuclear power and carbon capture and sequestration, to have those available as options, because it looks very difficult for renewables and efficiency to cover the entire energy need. Although it's conceivable that they could, and they should be at the top of the list. But the present generation of nuclear power plants burns less than 1% of the energy in the uranium. More than 99% ends up in a waste pile, which has a very long half-life and a big problem. But with next generation nuclear power, we could actually burn the nuclear waste. And that would, in addition to solving the nuclear waste problem, it would solve you wouldn't have to mine for uranium for 1,000 years, because we've got enough nuclear waste and existing uranium that, and thorium is another potential source for nuclear energy. And I think that we should at least be doing urgent R&D on that. The Argonne National Laboratory was ready to put together a fourth-generation nuclear power plant in 1994, and the Clinton administration terminated that because, there are a good segment of environmental community is just dead set against nuclear power. I think that, I'm afraid that will end up forcing us to keep coal plants burning. So that's the danger. So at least we should have that option available. And so it's unfortunate, in my opinion, that the Clinton administration cut off that R&D on fourth-generation nuclear power.
Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Hansen. My name is John Demos. I'm with the Alaska Wilderness League. I cover the Northeast for the group. And Alaska is warming about twice as fast as the rest of the planet. A lot of coal reserves there, and a tremendous amount of pressure to open up places like the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge and off the coasts of Alaska. And you were talking about the fact that we could probably do without our coal reserves. What do you feel about tapping these very special places?
Another benefit of putting a carbon price and having a gradually rising carbon price is that I think we should try to leave in the ground. We shouldn't be trying to get every last drop of oil out of the ground. It doesn't make sense, because we have to move beyond oil anyhow at some point. And if we put the price on carbon emissions that is significant and is known, and business and consumers know that it's going to continue to increase, then we will develop the energy sources that are not fossil fuel. And it would make much more sense, because we're going to have to figure out how to get some of that CO2 out of the atmosphere. So it just makes no sense to go to the most extreme environments, the most pristine places, to get the last drop.